Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a big announcement. I will be returning to competitive over-the-board chess later this year, June, in Las Vegas, Nevada, for the National Open. I played this tournament a couple of years ago in 2019. It was one of the few tournaments since becoming an international master that I actually had some success in. And in this video, I'm going to take you through 3 games during the event, take you through the story. At the end, I will show you the full cross table of how I performed. And that's about it. You all like these videos where I take you down memory lane and through my thought process of over-the-board classical chess. So without further ado, let's get going. This is round 2 and it's board number 6. I'm playing on stage at the event with a live broadcasted magnetic board. And my opponent is Yasser Quesada Perez from Cuba, who's got an older brother who's also very strong at chess and a younger sibling who's very strong at chess. Yasser was traveling and visiting the United States, and I knew before this game that Yasser was going to play the move e4. How? Because a month prior he played my friend, and my friend also plays the Caro-Kann defense. Now, I knew up until this, up until you'll see a little bit further, what Yasser was going to play. But Yasser didn't know that I knew that, because that game was not in the database. That game was not broadcasted. So my friend prepared with me the classical variation of the Caro-Kann defense, knight back to g3, bishop g6, and this classical variation up until this moment. The key move is e6. If we go back to the move knight f3, white wants to play knight to e5, and normally black plays knight d7. This is what is known as the old main line. But this game was the first game of my life I ever played the move e6. Took a bit of a risk playing it against the Grandmaster, but I was quite convinced that we would get this position on the board. And here really the question is, how is black going to develop these 3 pieces? Well, like this, knight to f6, right? That answers one question. And now bishop e7. So basically I'm delaying the movement of this knight so that I can play c5 and knight c6, which is relatively non-standard for this position. It's significantly more common for this knight to end up on d7. So castles, and here I played the move c5. Now up until this moment, everything was my preparation. Even this next move, knight to e4. And here, I surprised my opponent with the move knight c6. At first glance, that looks like it should just blunder this pawn. And my preparation here went knight c5, bishop c5, pawn takes, queen takes, cd, and long castles. And basically my argument here in this position is the fact that I'm going to go rook d5, and my opponent's got 3 very big weaknesses in the center of the board. It's not easy to deal with all of them, because I'm going to play rook d8, then I'm going to try to play a5, undermining whenever you play b4, maybe b6 to break that up, whatever. And right here, my opponent had a very long think, but played a move which was still in my preparation, which is the move bishop c3, and that is how chess works. Luckily, I had an earlier blueprint of how my opponent was going to play the position. However, chess at a high level is not, oh, I out-prepared you, I win. No, chess is very much not like that. Chess is, I'm going to go queen d5, you're going to go here, I'm going to go here, and now we are in a position that is no longer in my preparation. It's time to just play chess. So we take stock of the position. White is currently up a pawn, but has 2 very obvious weaknesses that both lead to a second one. So ultimately, I'm going to win 2 pawns. I have a big weakness, and my opponent decides to disregard both of his and go for the pawn on h6. Here, I play the move bishop c5, bishop h6, and bishop f2. And I was like, all right, at least material is equal. The biggest headache for me is the h-pawn. So for example, if the bishop ever goes back and the pawn starts gliding, I'm going to have to be mindful of that. My opponent played knight back to d2, trying to transfer the knight toward the center of the board, potentially into d6. That's a bit of a headache, but I struck back with the move knight to e5, attacking the rook, making, my opponent make a tough choice. Like, what are you doing? Which square are you going to move the rook to? Both of them have drawbacks. On c3, the rook is a target, and on b3, the c file is open, right? So you're not actually fighting for the c file, and ultimately, my opponent chose to go to b3. I played knight to g4, creating a threat stronger than this, and there's no easy way back for my opponent. So he went knight to e4, and we both have a threat. Now here is a big decision. If I take the bishop on h6, he's going to take this. I'm going to go here. He's going to take. I will take back. He will take this. And I'll probably go like here. And I was like, well, it's rook and 2 pawns. Now, this doesn't, by the way, that doesn't actually win anything because I take, but I was like, I don't know about that. But the computer obviously did know about that. The computer had something to say about it. But I played the move f5. And the point of this is that you can't actually go here. So you probably have to take there. And then I'm actually going to take back. I'm going to isolate your bishop against my knight and try to create a counterattack on that open c file, which you chose not to go to earlier in the game. Now, at this point, I'm like panicking, okay? Because truth be told, beating a grandmaster is not something that happens every day. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm starting to believe. I'm up a pawn. I got very active pieces. I'm not really sure what the heck is going on with these 2 pieces here. And I'm about to go here. And here, I was just expecting rook b7. I was expecting rook b7. I was going to go back with my knight, maybe play rook c8, and let's go. But my opponent played the move bishop back to f4, and I was like, okay. Well, now you can't take because I have this. And I fork you, and my rooks kind of combine here. You can't take because you're pinned. So he played h6, pushing his pawn. So I moved my king over. I don't want the pawn to become a queen. And then he played a4, and I was like, okay, well, now you can't have my pawn. Now I'm just a pawn up. And I remember walking around here, and this is move 28 for white. So white's got to make 13 more moves. He's only made 27 moves. The way chess sudden death works is that you get 90 minutes for the first 40 moves. And every time you make a move, you gain 30 seconds. So he hasn't made his time control yet. He's got 6 minutes for the next 13 moves. And I remember I got it from the board on his turn, and I'm just walking around trying to calm myself down because I'm like, holy shit, I might actually win this game. Oh my god. So I come back to the board, and he busts out a5. I'm like, all right, he's desperate. He's desperate. He's sacrificing pawns. Let's go. Let's buckle down. Infiltration with the rook. I'm like, wait a second. Bang, 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 bang. Simplification. Got 2 rooks, 5 pawns, 2 rooks, 3 pawns. I got to win this game. So I'm thinking around, like, how do I do this? All right, rook to h2. I'm going to bait him that I want this pawn. And when he takes, it's actually funny. I'm not even going to take on h6. I'm going to play this move. Why? Because if I had taken on h6, then I was thinking he would go c3. And then he would isolate my pawn and win it, and I would not be able to win the c pawn. So I gave him a check, and I won the c pawn. He played here, and then I played here. Now I'm just like, it's 3-on-1. That's it. Oh my god. But I'm low on time too. All right, I got like less than 5 minutes. He plays king a3. I'm like, all right, his only source of counterplay is pushing the b pawn. Rook to h3 check. He blocks king to e7. Let's go bring the king to the pawns and start pushing them. Rook f1, rook c3. Rook b1, I'm just gonna push. Plays king up to a4. I bring my other rook over so I can push my pawn and not disconnect my rooks. Now we've made the 40th move. So I get my extra time. I can calm down. I can breathe. Like, oh my god, I'm going to win this game. This is insane. b4, f2. Rook has to go occupy the first rank so my pawn doesn't make through. King d6, and here I set a little bit of a trap. Granted, I'm already winning, but I set a bit of a trap, and it looks like I have to go guard my pawn. But king c6, and the king is in a mating net. I'm threatening this, so he gives me he goes rook a2, but I'm also threatening not just that, I'm threatening to go back and around, and the king's got no escape. So he played check, I moved up, he gave me a check, I blocked with my pawn, and in this position, Yasser Quesada Perez resigned, and I was victorious with the combined threats of this and this. Caro Khan, baby. I've beaten a lot of grandmasters, and with this game, I added to it. Now, the truth is that I was beyond thrilled to win this game, because actually, as it turned out, my opponent did not lose very often with the white pieces. In fact, my opponent didn't lose for like the past 6 months with the white pieces, let alone to someone lower rated. You know, this guy might have lost to 2600 elo, but not to a lower rated. So I was very happy to win this game. It was a big boost of confidence, you know, for my opening repertoire. This next game is a game I played against, I believe he was a grandmaster already, but Pavlo Vorontsov is, he's an international student who came to the United States like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, before he was a GM, like 2400, and he got a degree and studied because he went to one of these universities of Texas that have really good chess programs. So it was exciting to be, this wasn't the next game, this was some games down the line. I will fill in the gaps for you, don't worry, don't go anywhere. As always, if you made it this far in the video, I love you, thanks for your support. And, you know, the thing about Pavlo is that he plays everything. And so when I sat down and he played G6, I was like, all right, I'm just going to do my thing. And then I was like, wait, doesn't the King's Indian go like this? So he kind of tricked me in the opening, right? He plays this move E5, and I remember sitting there going, all right, I don't want to play his game, but I really don't know what to do. Like, you know, I know that if I play D5, he kind of plays this in a very strange way. Like, you know, he's delaying the movement of this knight completely. Like, look at this. Like, the guy's just not moving his knight at all. I'm like, what? How do I? And then I played knight E2, and he plays F5. I'm like, damn it, I gave him a King's Indian, which is advantageous, because normally in the King's Indian, you're supposed to go knight F6. So I played F3, and here he played a very nice idea. I gotta give him credit here, and I remember I already was feeling bad, because I'm like, damn it, he's outplaying me positionally, even like from the opening. My biggest strength is my opening preparation, and then after that, my ability to navigate a complex position and fight for the initiative, understanding the dynamics. And the guy goes here. He spends 2 tempi in the beginning of the game moving his bishop, because my bishop is on the dark squares, and look at all my pawns, right? Now here I played this move, and black is just doing very okay here. What I should have done is actually just preserve my bishop. I should have made this passive move. I didn't want to do that because his bishop is so strong, but the truth is I need this guy. And then after this trade, I was like, all right, I'm going to castle long. He closed that side of the board, and here I played the move H4. I didn't want him to continue to advance on this side. Played H6, and here I'm like, G4. Here is my logic. He could take me en passant. If he does not, this side of the board is locked forever. I change my focus to the queen side, and that is where I'm going to do my damage. He took. I thought I was big genius McClever-Ovich here with this move Rook G1, delaying the capture here, not with the knight, maybe with the rook, to kind of stockpile some pressure. Guy played G5, trying to kind of clarify the issue. I took, he took, I jumped my knight to F5, we traded, he castled long. Okay, what is going on? This is move 20 for white. White is down a pawn. But black does have some problems. Doubled H-pawn, weak A-pawn, kind of easy infiltration to the queen side. But what else does black have? Great dark square control. In fact, almost every important piece is controlling dark squares. So here I play the move knight E4 with 2 threats. Number 1, this. Number 2, trying to push my pawn. Maybe rook G6, rook E6. Here Pavlo played knight B4. So I played bishop B1. I didn't want to trade, and I wanted to play the move A3 to kick him out, and then to win the pawn. He played C6. I was like, wait, what? C6? A3? He took. Take, 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 take. Hold on a second. I'm still down the pawn, but this seems like a big advantage for white now. I mean, I've just got a laser beaming bishop. My bishop is 10 times better than this knight. That knight can only move to G5 and back. That knight can't move anywhere else. I'm infiltrating. I've got pressure on B7. And I remember at this point, I was very low on time. And again, that doubt kind of starts creeping in. You're like, wait a second. I've actually got a good position. Wait, this is crazy. So the guy goes knight G5. I'm like, of course we don't want to trade. Let's put the bishop on D5. Look at this bishop. This is the biggest definition of an outpost square in your opponent's territory. Just period. What is an outpost square? Where you can plant one of your pieces and it cannot be attacked by an enemy piece that's worth equal or less. And from that square, you just dominate their side of the board. The only piece that's ever kicking me out of here is the knight. And, you know, knight H7, knight F6, maybe. But then bishop to E6. So here he played king to B8. And I remember I was sitting there like, what do I do? I mean, you know, if I could play F6. Now, he's not going to take and let me mate him. He's probably going to play queen C7. And then maybe I take. But do I really want my pawn here? I kind of like the fact that my bishop could go here in the future. And, you know, what if he plays like rook F8 trying to win my pawn? Now, what I missed here is the fact that if, for example, I just played like this, he can't actually take. Because of rook takes G5. And the pin on the H file. But that's such a hard move to play. And for example, if I played F4 here, like pawn takes, rook takes, that is another way to do it and just guard my pawn and slowly outplay him. This knight is absolutely dominated. Like, it has no movement at all. But I didn't correctly evaluate f6, and I played rook takes h4 first. He played rook to d7, defending the b7 square. And here again, maybe I have f4, but I got freaked out. I really didn't like the concept of activating the queen. Computer's not scared. Computer just, be patient, you'll win the pawn back, you'll be fine. But I played rook h5, which creates the threat of rook takes, pawn takes, and then this. But then he played here. Now everything is guarded, and I can no longer make the forward pawn move. And his rook is guarding mate, so what do? Well, we play queen back here, but all of a sudden he's consolidated, and the rooks are just very solid. And chess is ultimately a game of one move. And I remember I was sitting here with my time ticking lower and lower, and I couldn't figure it out, so I just took. I just couldn't figure it out, so I just took. And I sacrificed, and the reason this is actually playable for white is my bishop is just so much better than one of these rooks. I'm going to push my pawn. The only move that black really has is sacrificing back. For example, if black tries to play like this, then I play king d2, and I'm going to trade at some point and just end up pushing my pawn. And that's why in this position he took, and we got to rook and 3 versus rook and 3. He had a little bit of a bind here, actually, on me. He had a very annoying position. I gave him a check, and I played rook f7. And apparently here he could have played rook b4, just attacking my pawn. But my logic was, well, if he takes, I just move and I push. But, like always, the computer's not scared at all. And ultimately what ended up happening is we both kind of pushed our pawns, traded, and his king's frozen. Like, I put my rook on the right square to pressure both pawns, and after a very tense struggle, ultimately we traded pieces, and here we agreed to a draw, because if he moves his king over here, for example, I'll just attack the pawn, I'll win it, and if the king moves here, it doesn't really matter, I'm just going to keep giving checks. This is not a winnable rook and pawn endgame. And I remember I left this game I felt good. I mean, I had decent winning chances, and this was the continuation of a very, decent tournament for me. And as always, I will fill you in on how the entire tournament went when it's over. The last game was a heartbreaking game. This next game is round 6. This game is round 5, or round 4. Round 4, round 5. Up until this point, I'm undefeated. I've drawn multiple grandmasters. I've beaten a grandmaster. I'm feeling good. And this next game, I've got the black pieces against Cristian Kirila, who's actually the coach of he's a Romanian grandmaster who now lives in the United States and trains the Mizu college team. And going into this game, I was actually happy because I knew that Cristian was down for a fight, and he was going to bring some imbalanced position. So he began with the English. Now, I had prepared d4 or c4 before the game, and I basically said, if he plays the English and we get this position, I'm going to go here. You say, what the heck is that? Well, like I said, I wanted to create a weird imbalanced game quickly. Kramnik played the move h6, so h6 can't be a bad move, or maybe Carlsen played it against Kramnik, or Kramnik played it against Carlsen. I'm like, look, this is the idea. There's a lot of positions where you play bishop to b4, and the knight goes to d5. And then if you trade, your knight is hit, but I'm going to delay the move knight c6. So I delayed the move knight c6 until he did this, and then I played this, and it's just a wacky game of chess. It's a very close position. He goes castles. I played bishop to e6. He played knight d5. I played bishop c5. He played d3. And I played knight to d4, trying to instigate quickly and also get his knight out of the center with the move c6. And then I went out, got some water. I come back and I see b4. And I'm like, all right, I get it. Yeah, b4. He is attacking this, and if I back up, he's just going to take. And he wants the two bishops. He wants the bishop pair. So if I were to take on d5 and then hope that he took back and I would take the pawn, well, he could do that. Because queen a4 check. Like, he would take my knight first, and then he would play queen a4 check, and then he would win my bishop. I'm like, okay, well, okay. Maybe I can take with check, and then here, and then here. I'm like, yeah, but then he goes bishop b2, and he's got a big space advantage. I really don't like this. So what do? b4 is kind of an annoying move. And then I thought, hey, remember that Gotham Chess video that doesn't exist yet that talks about danger levels? What is worth more than a bishop? Uh-oh. Bishop e2. If he takes, then I take with check, I take with check, and I win his queen. Oh my god! And I blitzed out bishop g4. I mean, I didn't even need to think, because f3 runs into this. So for example, f3, I can just double check, and I'm very happy. And then after everything clears out, I'm just gonna be a pawn up. And I played the move bishop g4. I wrote it down, got up, started walking around. 10 minutes go by, no move. 15 minutes go by, he's still thinking. 20 minutes go by, he's still thinking. 25 minutes go by, I'm walking around like, oh my god, I'm gonna win this game, and then I'm on pace to make a GM norm. I can't believe this man blundered in the opening. Bishop g4, oh my goodness. I'm like, bro, calm down, relax. I'm like looking around the other games. Finally, I come back, and, you know, I see that he played the move knight back to c3. Now, what this move does is it just gives me the pawn. He just says, just take my pawn. But now I'm going to play f3. And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, f3, So basically, you know, he wants me to get out. I'm just going to go back. I'm going to create this threat again. He plays king h1. I'm like, okay, I start thinking, all right, let me just back up to d7. I didn't really know what to do. I mean, if I went to e6, I felt like maybe in the future I would be a target. So I went back to d7. This stops his knight from coming to a4 potentially. I'm thinking queen c8 next to go like this. Here he plays rook to b1, which attacks my b7 pawn. And he was playing very fast because obviously he had thought for 20, 25 minutes. He was like, okay, all of this is going to happen. And I remember here, I wanted to match his pace. I didn't want to sit and do my own tank. I'm like, I'm up 30 minutes. I'm up a pawn. I'm feeling the momentum. Let's go. And I played queen c8. Now, the problem with the move queen c8 is that on the surface, it looks like it guards the pawn. But my queen's not, I'm never going here now because I'm losing the guard of b7. It would have been, like, honestly, as dumb as this move looks, it does the job. But I played queen c8. He took on d4. And I was like, well, I don't really want to block my bishop. I mean, that doesn't look very good. So, okay, I'll take it like this. Then he immediately went back. I was like, okay. I don't really want to give, you know, this away. All right, let me just go back to b6. And then he played, like, I remember I was sitting there for a while. And he played the move g4. I was like, what? Like, hold on a second. This looks so crazy. g4, he's down a pawn. What do you mean g4? Like, what is he? And then I realized his position is surprisingly well equipped for an attack. Like, surprisingly well equipped. So, I remember I thought I caught him. I thought I had caught him with the move h5. My idea being that, of course, he's not going to take and open up my h-file. He's going to go here. And I thought I was a genius. I thought I was going to go h4, and I was like, the game is over. It's done. He has no chance. When he takes, I trap his bishop. I take, the h-file is open. Game over. And I remember when he played g5, it hit me. I had completely missed one of his main ideas. And that main idea is that after h4, he has this. And then I realized, uh-oh, this is bad. This is why it's bad. Because now if I play h3, he has a new square. I miss that he can push the pawns and get out. And now I have a problem. You would think, why is this a problem? Just like move your knight. Yes, it looks that way. But rook takes b6. A takes b6. f5. And my knight is trapped. You have to sack, because otherwise I'm going to f2. So by removing the defender, my knight is trapped. I was like, what? How did this dude just trap my knight? I'm like, okay, whoa, that doesn't work. I can't play h3. h3 is bad. So I started thinking, well, if I take this, he just takes my knight, and now I'm not trapping his bishop. Okay, so I can't take the pawn, so I've got to move my knight. If I can't do this and I can't do this, I have to move my knight. Where am I moving my knight? If I play knight to g4, trying to go knight to f2, this dude is going to play d4. He's going to push all his pawns somewhere Eric Rosen just squealed in delight. Like, wait, how am I not better here? And then when I take, I lose this. So he can take and play h3 and just, my knight is trapped again. Like, yo, what? This is crazy. And stupid me put his queen here, so now stupid me can't even castle queenside. Or kingside, because I pushed my... I'm like, oh my god, I start thinking. I play the move knight h5. It's the best move. I played the best move. The problem is, now he threw another pawn at me. He played this move in like 30 seconds. So clearly he mentally prepared that if I play the move knight h5, he's going to do that. Why is that the best move? Because knight h5, I'm trying to go here. So my idea is to go check. Pawn takes, he has no move. And my rook, right? And it's like basically mate. That was my idea, but he plays d4. And I remember thinking, well, I obviously should take. But somehow, it doesn't work anymore. Somehow, I can't break past this knight. And I'm like full panic mode now. I'm like, what? And I thought, I played this move. And then he killed the circulation of my queen and my bishop. We traded, and I took and played queen d7. He went here, and I'm like, dude, I can't move. My knight can't move. My pawn can't move. I have no moves. How did this happen? How did I go from a pawn up celebrating that I was going to get a GM norm? So I'm like, you know what? Long castle. He plays queen f3. And at this moment, I had mentally prepared that I was going to put my queen on e5. This was my big idea. I was going to go here, here, here. And so what I played is rook e8. He played knight b5. I played queen e7. My idea was to win this pawn. So he went back, and I played queen e5. And I shouldn't have played the move queen to e5. But because I had mentally prepared it, I was trying to catch up on the clock. I just blitzed it out. I mean, the truth is, it looks like a very human move. Computer hates it, but it looks very human. Why does it hate it? Because after takes, queen e3, I missed this. This is what I missed. And he found it because he's a stronger player than me. He found just queen e3. Very simple move. He just found queen e3, and I have no entrance points. And then I realized that this is going to be a very long game. At this point, I realized I'm probably losing, but a computer would defend this with black. And I figured I can defend this with black, but this is going to take forever. And slowly, but surely, he advanced this position. And I played solidly. I got a little pawn diamond, and he advanced, and I defended, and he locked away my knight. And I knew if I defended this right, I would be able to hold. And I defended. And we made it to move 40, and we got our extra time. The position hasn't changed a whole lot. He's trying to break through on 3 separate sides. I'm defending. We're shuffling, slowly draining my clock, right? He's transferring his knight. Now he brings his king. At this point, I play c6, so he can't make any progress, but b6 is a bit weak. I'm like, it's okay, at least he can't make any progress. Still holding, but he's making it difficult. He's trying to find a way in, and I'm shuffling my pieces. I'm like, he can't get close to this pawn. He can't even take that pawn, to be honest, because his rook can't go here. And if he ever takes it, my knight jumps and activates. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Uh-oh, I think I realized what he's trying to do. He's going to transfer all of his pieces and just break through on the queen side. And, slowly, by activating his king on the optimal square, he ends up being able to take my h-pawn. And he plays this move a5. And at this point, this is like move 67. I've got like minutes on the clock. He's got, 10, 15. He's managed this time a lot better. And I was like sitting there like, this is the 6th hour of play now. Like 5.5 hours. We're entering that 6th hour. I'm sitting there like all my energy is drained. And I just say, you know what, b5. I don't give a damn. I don't care. Take. He takes. I play d5. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Go ahead. Let me see it. Let's go. d5. He takes on c6. I take on b2. He takes back. I play the move d4. I'm like, let's go. Knight to d5 check. King takes c6. I don't care. Bring it. King d7. Bang. And he plays rook b6. And I remember here, he shuffled. And then at this point, he almost played rook takes pawn. He almost played this move because we were both low on time, which would have blundered check. And then I would have, and probably there's still some way to hold this. But rook e7 takes, and yeah, my pawns are fast, but his are faster. And ultimately, he's threatening to promote. I didn't actually take here, but the final move of the game is the move e5, and there's just nothing I can do. I can't guard every single pawn that's about to come down. There is no way for me to hold it, and I ended up resigning. Now, some moves earlier in the game, there was an absolutely absurd, like, computer way to hold this position. It's somewhere around here. I don't exactly remember. It might have been, yeah, so this was the moment. The computer showed this afterward. I, of course, didn't even come close to seeing this in the game, but the move d5. And the point is that after cd5, you sack the rook. If takes, and they take on h3, you give check, king g3, and knight d5. And the knight holds the pawn, and the rook patrols the entire fourth rank. And you've sacrificed the rook, and that's it. It's just a draw. Like, white has no way to get to f7. And you're threatening this. If a5, you just play b5. You don't let the rooks in. I didn't see that. I only saw the idea to break out and go crazy right at the cusp of being completely lost. But this game, 6-hour game, which ended like almost at midnight, it killed my energy. It completely destroyed all focus, all happiness. I mean, this was a long, drawn out game, and the worst part is like it was so much better so soon, and then he just found the best ways to complicate it, and I had to manage myself better, and I was unsuccessful. Now, ultimately, and I told you all that I would at the end take you through the kind of final results. This was the event. You know, I beat a young player, 21-46, and then for the next like 5-6 rounds, I only played grandmasters. Like this guy Sorokin, he's not yet a grandmaster, but we drew. That was a 100-move game that I survived. Queen endgame. Drew that game after I beat Yasser. Then I drew Andrei Barishpalets, grandmaster from Ukraine. This was my game against Vorontsov, and this was my first loss. It came 6 rounds into the tournament. Then I drew against Belarus, who's a grandmaster. I beat another talented young player like master level. And this last round, I lost to Andrew Tang, who some of you might know. This was one of just this game was a disaster. This game was just very bad. It was like last round syndrome. And if I could have one game back in this event, it would probably be the Kirilla game, but this game's probably not too far away. So, you know, I wanted to make this video as a bit of an update. I have not competed since... I haven't trained seriously since 2019. I became an international master in 2018, and since then, I've gained rating in like one tournament. I think a lot of it is the fact that in my life, I never thought I would even become a title player. I wasn't a title player until I was over 20 years old, which might sound young to some of you, but kids are becoming IMs at the age of 10 now, so... When I became an IM, I think there was a bit of an adrenaline dump. Now, recently, as you all know, with puzzle solving and my blitz, you know, my drive has been there. My desire to play has been there. And I wanna come back and see what happens. My goal is not to make a GM norm. My goal is to play 9 good games of chess, enjoy the process, and if I gain rating, then I'll be happy, and we'll see what happens from there. But little update video for y'all. But we're back.